Get ready for more valuable financial insights from Northern California's premier retirement income planners, Ahmad and Jim Files, owners of Peak Financial Freedom Group. For more information, go to peakfin.com. And now, here's Dan and Jim.
Welcome to the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Ahmad and Jim Files. We'd like to thank all of our loyal listeners who've been here for years, hopefully gaining the knowledge to make better decisions about their money. Also like to thank all of our current clients that are listening, because we have a ton that listen and make sure they stay up to date with data. And that's really why we started the radio show years ago. Wasn't to talk to new people to help them become new clients. It was to communicate with our current clients to make sure they stayed educated and continued to feel comfortable and not worry about their money. But now we get both. Now we get really good clients that listen, and we get new people who want to become clients. And if you want to meet with us for a free, no obligation consultation, second opinion about your money, we'll even design, if it fits for you, we actually design a complete customized retirement income plan, give it to you for free. You get to take it home, and you don't even have to become our client. You know, that's like the best promise and guarantee anyone can give you. No pressure, and you're going to get a free plan and the work done for you. All you have to do is dial pound 250 on your cell phone, pound 250, and say the keyword money. That's pound 250 and keyword money, and we can help you. You also can go to our website and get free educational videos, as well as download for free our most recent best-selling Amazon book, Mama's Secret Recipe for Retirement Success. You also can go to YouTube and see a ton of videos that we've done to help educate you, and it puts you in a really good position. So, Jim, why don't you start off with a really good quote to get the show in the right attitude?
I think this quote will affect everybody that is planning to retire or in retirement. The real Social Security crisis is that the government does not have the money to redeem its own IOUs, right? And that was done by Paul Roberts, an economist. And what it's saying is that they've already borrowed money to shore up the Social Security system. They don't even have the money to pay back the IOUs, let alone try to be in a position to fund Social Security for a long period of time. And anybody that's entering retirement, or anybody in retirement that is counting Social Security as a big portion of their income, has to be concerned about that, because the government doesn't have the money at this point, and it's deemed to reduce distributions to consumers through Social Security in about 8 years. And if that happens, it will affect tons of people. Dan, tens of millions of people will be affected by this.
Well, that's a huge point, especially with what had just passed with the recent legislation a few months ago. And I always say, whenever Democrats and Republicans agree on something, it's the dumbest laws that ever get passed in the free world. Literally, when the Democrats and Republicans both agree, oh yeah, let's do this. So they agreed then that they were going to tax Social Security, or put a bigger pain on Social Security, because now they expanded benefits to cover pretty much everyone, even if we weren't having a pension contribution during the time we were working, like we were state employees. So we weren't putting in Social Security, which I always think it's fair to get your Social Security benefits. The issue is going to be, they should have passed this a long time ago instead of right now, when we're already facing in anywhere from 6 to 8 years a Social Security shortfall. This new law is going to decrease that shortfall by 2 years.
Yep.
2 years earlier. And at that point, the current estimation, which means are low, they think benefits will need to be reduced by 20 to 21% just to now shore up the system, which, you know, those numbers are going to be low.
Yep.
It's probably going to be 30 to 40%, you know, the way government gives us data. So we have to make sure we put a plan together, not just based on what Social Security is, but we have to make sure your assets are going to be used to create income that is guaranteed to last for as long as you live, without the possibility of a decrease, without the possibility of Social Security going down, or like your pensions, the pensions can go down or be eliminated. We have to use assets that are going to give us that type of income, because the world is just too scary right now. So let's start with a case study. Jennifer, she says she's had an advisor for over 15 years, and she thinks of him as a close friend. She has recently told him that, to her advisor, I want less risk, but he hasn't adjusted my portfolio. He says, just don't worry, you're fine. You're not taking that much risk. He hasn't provided me an actual plan. And evidently she listened to the show, because she says, like you always say, he told me my total fees I'm paying is about 1%, but it's not in writing. He also told me I don't have that much risk. And I asked, what does that mean? And he says, well, a severe market decline won't hurt you. She says she's retiring in 24 months. She feels she needs a plan, and she's worried. but she feels guilty. I'm looking for a new financial advisor. What do you think?
Well, first of all, you don't have to feel guilty about anything. This is your money. It's not anybody else's money. You are the steward of your own money. And yes, you have a relationship with the advisor, which is fine. You should have a relationship with them. But you have hired that advisor for their skill set, right? For their knowledge base, and to put you in a position whereby you don't have to worry as much, and put you in a position so you understand with clarity exactly how your retirement plan is supposed to work for you. You understand with clarity what your risk is, what your fees are, where your income's going to come from. By income source. Is it guaranteed? Is it not guaranteed? Will it go up? Will it go down? Will it run out? What about my after-tax income? Will it maintain my budget? What about inflation? What about long-term care costs? All those concerns I'm sure you have, and you're expressing right now, and you should seek a second opinion to get those answers, because if you don't have those answers, you will continue to worry and worry more and worry more. And just hoping that it's going to work out, maybe you're lucky and it will work out okay for you, but you shouldn't use hope and luck as a retirement asset gauge, because this market can change very quickly. The world can change very quickly. You need to have your answers in writing. Seek out a firm that does that for you.
Well, let's look at a couple more points she put on her note, and that is she thinks she's done a decent job saving. She doesn't think she saved enough, but she saved up $1.5 million. That's awesome. She's going to get $50,000 if she retires, and she wants to retire now, but she thinks she has to wait the 24 months, and her budget is about $8,000 right now. So she doesn't think there's any way possible unless she works 2 years minimum, maybe a lot longer than that. But if we put a plan together for her, literally, we could put a plan together for her and she can retire right now. So let's say she's 63 now and she thinks she has to work to 65. If we can retire now, could put her in a lot better position to travel and do the things she wants. We could design a plan that would probably give her about $12,000 of gross income per month after taxes. She'd probably be right at $10,000 of net income. This is with her, again, only having her $1.5 million portfolio and $50,000 of Social Security. $10,000 in net income per month, Jim, is $2,000 more than what her budget is. How would that then allow her to retire now if this is what she could get if she retired next month?
The beauty about this planning process that we do here is that you get to see when you can retire. And it's so amazing that when we do this, if you're not retired, that in such a large percentage of the cases, it'll show you can retire as soon as you want to. You may still continue to work, but wouldn't it be nice to know that, hey, you can retire if you get frustrated one day, or if you get tired of listening to your boss 1 week, 6 months from now, knowing that you can retire? It changes your entire outlook about life and your mood, and the fact that you don't worry as much because you can see in writing that you can retire.
Well, Jim, I had a client that just basically with that exact same thing you're talking about, they said they want to retire no later than 2 years. We put a plan together showing they can retire now. And both the husband and wife said, well, we'll probably work longer just because, if it's fun, but we'd like to be able to get out anytime we want. So he said, I think this is kind of what I'd call the bird plan. Like, bird plan. I go, what does that mean? He goes, that means I can flip my boss the bird any day I want and I can get out of there. So that was pretty funny. He calls it the bird plan.
Well, the beauty is that you can design a plan. If you'll sit down with us, let us walk you through what we do for every client. Let us understand what you want your money to do for you. Let us understand when you ideally want to retire. Let us do this whole process for you. It doesn't cost you anything at all. It costs you a little bit of time. We bear the expense on it. There's no obligation. All you have to do is call pound 250 and say the keyword money. That's pound 250 on your cell phone and say the keyword money. And by doing that, you will start to take control of your life. And wouldn't it be nice to know that you can control your money, you can control your life, but you can't control it hoping it's going to work out. You have to have this stuff in writing so you understand how to position your assets to make sure you don't make a big financial mistake, and how to position those assets to make sure you're going to have enough income for the rest of your life. And doing this is what we do every day. And if you're listening right now, it doesn't take much effort. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going to try this. Pound 250, say the keyword money, come in for the one meeting, and let us show you how we put this together.
Well, let's look at a couple other cases, Jim, I think that fits for what we're talking about now. And this is Jim and Jan. And we're retired and they saved $4 million. They've done a great job. And whether they saved $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, they've done a great job because they've accumulated a really, really good size asset base for retirement. But they both say now we worry about our money all the time, but for different reasons. Jan worries about losses, running out of money, and not knowing what to do, and making a mistake that will hurt their retirement success. Jim worries about not making big returns and missing out on opportunities. Is this normal for us both to feel differently, and what can we do? And we talk a lot about how married couples, you're going to think differently. You're never going to think the same, especially about money, because typically one of you is taking care of the money as far as the investments and has been more aggressive and has learned to be that type of investor. Then the other person typically handles the budget and the monthly bills, and that really takes a more conservative approach because you want to make sure enough income's coming in that's going to cover and exceed what your expenses are. So how can you not have different views when each of you is doing something different for the family? What we find is we can do both. And if someone told me, many, many years ago when I got in this business, I knew it was about numbers, but if they'd have told me, Dan, for you to be the most successful planner you can be to help people, the best advisor, 90% of what you do is going to have nothing to do with money. It's going to have to do with you being a psychologist and a marriage counselor. I would have said there's no flipping way that's true. And what do we spend 90% of our time each day doing?
Exactly that.
So being psychologists and marriage counselors, because we have to help people. But the numbers then will help justify what we're talking about. You're back with Dan, Ahmad, Jim Files, the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today we're talking about avoiding mistakes that could cause big losses and ruin your retirement. And we ended last section on a case study with Jim and Jan. And that's the couple that had saved $4 million in retirement. They've done a great job, but they both worry about their money all the time for different reasons. Jan worries about losses, running out of money, not knowing what to do, and then making a mistake that would ruin their retirement. Jim worries about not making big returns and missing out, feeling that would ruin their retirement. And they want to know, is that normal? And what can we do? So we talked about, yeah, that's normal for a husband and wife to feel different than each other. But we can now bring them back together by using our 3-bucket system. And our 3-bucket system, combined with a comprehensive written retirement income plan, will help them achieve all the goals that they both want to achieve, because we can't just achieve Jan's goals. We can't just achieve Jim's goals. We have to achieve both their goals. Our 3-bucket system, then let's start there, Jim. We use a liquid cash bucket for liquidity, access, the money's available, bank money, no fees, low return, but we don't have to worry about it. Then we use a growth bucket because we want money in the stock market and the ability for the growth of that portion of the bucket. It's going to have some risk, but we need that growth. And then we're going to use our principal guaranteed and lifetime income guaranteed bucket. And that will then give them a pension type of income at a very, very high level, guaranteed forever. So if you look at then the liquid bucket, it's going to be bank money. Everyone understands that. The growth bucket we use is going to be going for growth, but we're going to put risk mitigation, risk minimization at the forefront, number one, and then trying to get you the highest rate of return we can get while we're minimizing the risk. And the green bucket's going to protect the principal. Even if the stock market crashes 60%, it's also going to give us high income payout rates. To give you an example right now in that green bucket, let's say we had $1 million in the green bucket and we're going to use other assets first, and we don't need to take income off this green bucket for 5 years. We can provide up to 10%, in some cases higher, guaranteed lifetime joint payouts for a couple just on that $1 million. So how would they like to then know after 5 years they get $100,000 of guarantee income coming from that asset while we're still leaving a big chunk of the assets available to grow in the market?
I mean, it's really killer when you look at these numbers, because the safe withdrawal rate on a managed portfolio with just stocks and bonds is only 3%. Adjusted for inflation each year. If you could get 9, 10, 11, I just did a plan. They got 12.5% distribution on their assets. If you had $1 million, that's $120,000 a year in guaranteed lifetime income. If the money ever runs out, the income still is going to come to you as long as you live. It's a killer plan when you use these distribution rates that we can with these instruments that are available today. And 95% of the people don't even understand there's instruments out there, Dan, that will do this for them. It blows them away when they see this.
Well, think about what you just said. Maybe talk about this concept. Right now, typical person listening is going to have a diversified portfolio, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And the current asset value is going to be up and down. It's going to be volatile. And if they try to take income off of that type of asset, their income has to be based on the value. Well, how do they know what value is going to be in there this year or next year? And that's what causes the fear. What if we use our green bucket to eliminate the thought process that your income is not based on your value. The income is based on what you put into the plan, regardless of what the stock market does. Even if the stock market crashes, what does that do now to free up that thought process?
I mean, when they see it, and most people don't understand, when they actually see the numbers, it actually blows them away. You have to tell the consumer 2 or 3 times because it sounds too good to be true that you could have assets in this bucket, which we call the green bucket, whereby those assets have no market risk. They have no interest rate risk. If you have gains in that bucket, once the market goes down in the future, it can't be taken away. And depending on when you want to retire and activate that income, each year you wait, that income bucket is going to increase for income purposes. So that if you waited 4, 5, or 6 years, or you can start income immediately if you wanted to, it'll be a less of a payout rate than 10%. But you get to choose when you want that pension income stream, in this example, to come in. And you can do it at any time, and it will be there for the rest of your life. And when they can see that, it's pretty mind-blowing to people.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to do a quick little plan for Jim and Jan. So let's say they have $4 million of assets, and let's say Jim likes to be aggressive and still wants to manage some of the money. Well, unlike other firms, we're going to say he can continue to manage a portion of the assets as long as we're not going to be too risky. If we did a risk analysis on their $4 million, it's probably going to show they have close to 50% risk if he's that aggressive, which means then they could lose $2 million currently, and they'd only be down to $2 million, which then would mean their retirement probably isn't going to be successful. What if instead then we take their $4 million and we say, right now they don't have much money in the bank, but let's say we want to have $400,000 of money in the bank. The good thing about that, it has no risk. What if then we want to put $2 million into guaranteed income bucket and we have no risk to produce income? Then what if we want to put $1.6 million into the growth bucket, which is the stock market, and we're going to put $1.2 million into a risk reduction managed portfolio, and he's going to continue to manage 400,000 as aggressively as he wants. Okay. So the 40,000 has 50% risk. And let's say the 1.2 million, let's say we have a 10% stop loss. It has about 10% risk. Well, in this case, we then would have a $200,000 potential loss on his assets. We'd have about $120,000 loss on our assets. So now we have $320,000 of risk versus $2 million of risk. And on $4 million, that means we got him down to about an 8% overall risk factor versus this current 50, and produced a significant amount of income for them.
Well, the beauty with this type of plan is you get to choose how much risk you want. You tell us how much risk you want. We work backwards with the instruments that we're going to use to manage the money. If you want less risk, we have to put more money in the guaranteed bucket and more money in the bank. If you want more risk, we have to put less money in the guaranteed bucket and less money in the bank. You get to choose that. Our software do all the calculations for you. You get to play with it. You get to see it until you and your wife, if you're married, are comfortable with the risk factor that you have in your portfolio. It's not us saying you're going to be fine. It's going to be in writing so you understand your risk level.
Well, in this case, for Jim and Jan, we could design a plan right now, just looking at the numbers, where they could have somewhere between $16,000 and $18,000 minimum of net income after taxes every single month for as long as they live without worrying about running out. And they're probably trying to live on $8,000 to $12,000 now and worried it's going to run out. What if they can have $16,000 to $18,000 and not ever have to worry that the money would run out? It makes them feel so much better about spending some of the money that they've saved. Welcome back. You're with Dan, Ahmad, and Jim Files, Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today we're covering how to avoid mistakes that could literally ruin your retirement, big losses, and just not understanding where you're at right now. We can then help you. And we talked about Social Security to start the show, and that was that Social Security probably is going to have some major changes over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and none of the changes are going to be good for anyone listening right now. They're all going to be bad, and we all know that. It's just, how do we quantify that? Well, I think the studies show now that Social Security benefits will have to drop by between 20 and 21%. We think they're going to have to drop by double that just to be able to make sure the system stays intact for a long time period. So we have to plan to make sure your assets are producing a high level of income guaranteed no matter what happens with Social Security. So let's look at another case, and this isn't about Social Security, but it is a little bit based on what she's saying. Rhonda, she's 62. She's a nurse, just retired for health reasons, basically stress, and far short of what she had planned to retire at age 67. She's embarrassed that she needs $10,000 to live on each month. That's what her budget is. But that's because she has a $3,000 a month house payment from her divorce, I get $3,000 per month from her pension and Social Security total. So I need $7,000 for my 2.5 million of mostly IRA assets. Well, she really needs more because her $10,000 budget is after taxes. Her $3,000 Social Security and her $7,000 from her $2.5 million IRA assets are before taxes. So she probably needs about $12,000 a month to net her $10,000. Her advisor says she should defer income distributions from her IRA until age 73 and sell her house. Do I have to sell my house? So you think about this lady is stressed. She had to retire. And the last thing she wants to do is then have to go through the stress of selling her house and buying a new house just from some bonehead advice from an advisor who gives her the advice, oh yeah, sell it. And then you'll have enough money to live on between 62 and 73 and defer your IRAs till 73. That's like the biggest bonehead advice I could ever see someone giving. And it's very short-sighted, and there's just no time spent in giving that recommendation. In her case, you look at then where she's at with her Social Security, her assets, design a plan in writing that's going to show we can probably create a plan that'll give her $12,000 a month of net income after taxes. Now, can she afford to stay in her house and at the same time reducing her risk down to an amount that she feels comfortable in writing?
Of course. I mean, but it has to be in writing, right? It has to be a methodical approach. And we're putting together a plan. It's not Dan and I saying it's going to work out fine, don't worry about it, or sell the house in this example. There's no evidence behind his comment in this example when the broker made that statement to the client. We put together a full written plan, an income plan, a tax plan, a legacy plan. We show you how to produce income. Do you want it guaranteed or not guaranteed? If you're concerned about Social Security, as we mentioned earlier, we can put more money in the guaranteed bucket so that if Social Security does drop, you have more guaranteed income that cannot stop for the rest of your life. If you want growth, we have a growth bucket. We can lay out this so that you can see and we can demonstrate based on what your objectives are that we can accomplish your plan requirements. And in this example, with this lady, putting together a plan to make sure that she can stay in her house, that she doesn't have to sell her house, doesn't have to go through that emotional drama, and making sure that she understands that she is going to have enough income for the rest of her life so that she can make good decisions and stop worrying so much. But so many advisors, Dan, just say it's not going to work or, oh, you'll be fine, it will work fine, is not good enough.
Well, let me give you a simple way we would create a plan. And not that this is the recommendation, but let's just pretend like we met with this lady, went through the plan, and she had her $2.5 million of assets. And we then she had no money in the bank, like 10,000 she kept in checking. So we put 200,000 of her assets in the bank. And whether that's liquid money, hopefully she has some money outside of the IRAs, then we'd put that money in the bank because we need that liquidity. But at the same time, if she doesn't have that money in liquid money, it's in her IRAs, we can set up a bank IRA. And people don't know you can do this, but now it allows us to protect those assets and it's liquid. So let's say we did that. Then let's say we use $1.3 million in the guaranteed bucket for income. And then let's say we put $1 million in the growth bucket. So we still have a lot of growth opportunities in this scenario. We could generate, if she has $36,000 of Social Security per year, we could generate approximately $160,000 of gross income before taxes, which is about $14,000 a month. And after taxes, we could then put her, just by doing this, Jim, in a net income range of about $12,000 a month of net income after taxes versus their $10,000 budget. So can she stay in her house, and does she have to sell her house?
Well, the beauty is that she can stay in her house. She does not have to sell her house. Her stress will go down. A plan can be designed to do this. And anybody listening, if you have sufficient assets, you can develop a plan. I mean, you are working within a certain budget. I mean, it's based on how much you're making right now in order to survive, right? And the goal is not to reduce that budget when you retire and hopefully increase the amount of money you can generate after tax above your budget requirements so you can do some things in retirement that you plan to do when you weren't when you were working, right? You want to travel, you want to help the kids out, you want to do things. You cannot do that with just hoping your money's going to work out. You have to be in a position to have a plan in place so that you can see the numbers. You know, they're in writing. You can understand them, the income, where it's coming from. It's going to go up. Is it going to go down? Will it go away? Is the income guaranteed? Is it not guaranteed? How much is Social Security? How much is coming off your portfolio? If you understood these numbers, you'll feel very, very comfortable in retirement. But if you don't understand these numbers, you're going to look at your iPhone every single day when the market goes up and down, and you're going to be constantly worried about, are you going to have enough money to live the rest of your life?
Well, I'm sure so many people listen to us on the radio, on the TV, and they hear that we want to create net excess monthly cash flow. We want you to have more net income than what your budget is. and they wonder why. I'm not going to spend that. I'm frugal. I don't need extra money. Da 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 da. Well, you're basing that feeling on data that isn't correct that you've been given before, and that is when you retire, you only need 70% of your income. Well, to most people's minds, that means if I'm netting $10,000 right now, I only need $7,000.
Yeah.
And how could that be true? That if you're netting 10,000 and spending 10,000, your budget's 10,000, how could you ever need less? You don't. You need a minimum of at least that amount, but it's worse than that, because when you're retired, you look at what retirement's going to mean. And if you look at now while working, every day you work Monday through Friday, do you spend less money per day Monday through Friday, or do you spend more money per day Saturday and Sunday? And every single person spends more money out of pocket per day Saturday and Sundays because we're off. We have more time to do it. We have free time. We're enjoying ourselves. Well, what do you think retirement's going to be? Retirement's going to be one long weekend. So you're going to spend more money. We find that you need typically 20 to 40% more income at retirement than you need while working. You're back with Dan, Ahmad, Jim Files, the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And today we're talking about avoiding mistakes that could ruin your retirement. And we started the show off with Social Security and how that potentially can have ruin for a lot of our retirements, because Social Security in just several years is going to hit the point where we're going to need 20 to 21% reductions across the board in Social Security benefits just to keep up, and probably more after that. So, we think whatever the government tells us is going to be worse. So we think it could be 30 to 40% reductions at some point in the future. We have to plan for that. So we're giving a lot of case studies these last few shows, because we find that's the best way for people to learn, because a lot of you are going to say, oh my gosh, that sounds like me. And let's do a couple of these case studies right now. Let's do Sherry. This is a unique one. Sherry, she's 67, recently widowed, very concerned about the money. She lost $50,000 of her husband's pension and $25,000 of her own Social Security benefits. So she lost $75,000 a year of income. She has $1.5 million of assets, and she's worried because she asked, where can I find safety and security in today's volatile stock market conditions with dependable income that won't run out before I do? Because that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that I'd run out of money now, especially with my husband being gone. How can I make sure my money will last for my entire life, even if I live into my mid-90s or beyond, because I have longevity in my family?
Well, there are financial instruments out there, Sherry, that allow you to do that. You can decide how much money you want dependable and guaranteed, and how much money you don't want dependable and guaranteed. Social Security, for example, you think it's dependable and it's guaranteed. Well, it's not dependable and it's not guaranteed based on what the data you just suggested, Dan, a few minutes ago, where the Social Security system is running out of money, and you have to be very careful about that if you're relying on your income in retirement, a lot of it coming from Social Security. So what you have to do, you have to design a plan right now to say, okay, if Social Security is indeed going to go down by 15, 20, 25, or 30% in the future, how do I shore that up? And what can I do today in order to make sure that I have enough guaranteed income to satisfy my requirements if that does happen? The beauty about this is you can do that. There are financial instruments that we use every single day in planning that will give you a dependable, guaranteed lifetime income stream, regardless whether you have money left over in that investment bucket or not, as long as you follow the rules of the plan. So there is a way to do this to make sure that you can be very content with a retirement plan that gives you enough guaranteed income to last as long as you live.
So let's say with Sherry, we did a simple plan. Let's assume she's keeping her, it sounds like she lost her Social Security, so she's keeping her husband's higher Social Security. So let's say she's getting $50,000 of Social Security. Then with her assets, let's now try to create another $100,000 a year of income off the assets and won't run out. That'll give her about $12,500 of gross income before taxes. So what if, without knowing anything else, what if Sherry now can have a plan that's created for her that'll give her $10,000 a month net after taxes that's going to last for as long as she lives? I'll bet she'd stop worrying as much about her money. And one of the assets we'd use inside of that would be our green bucket that provides a guaranteed income. And we might use some of the other assets first, but if we defer taking income off the green bucket and use other assets first for income and still get her that $100,000 of income, the money we put in the green bucket will probably pay her at her age 67, probably pay her an 11 or 12% guaranteed payout when we start taking income, and it's guaranteed to be paid for as long as she lives. And that would be net of all fees.
When you say guaranteed payout, and just so the listeners understand what that really means, if you have a retirement account of stocks and bonds, you're not supposed to take out more than 3% annually. You can adjust that slightly for inflation, but you still have a likelihood you could still run out of money. This means that in this example, if you can get 10, 11, or 12% payout in that same scenario, you can triple and sometimes even quadruple the amount of income coming off the asset. And in this green bucket that we're talking about, which is one of the three buckets we put together, cash, growth, and the green bucket, it allows you to have a dependable guaranteed income stream so that you'll still have money in other buckets. What we're trying to do is manage your stress level and to make sure you have enough income to maintain your lifestyle and retirement, and to put enough money in this green bucket that we're describing to make you content. You decide how much you want guaranteed, and then we design a plan that way.
Well, and what this does, it allows you to shift your focus from when we're working, younger, saving money, when we have an aggressive growth mentality. We want you now at retirement to shift your focus on an aggressive income mentality, as long as the income will not run out for as long as you live. So if your income will not run out for as long as you live, don't you want to aggressively take out the max amount of income you can take out, as long as you're not going to be in a high tax bracket? And for every single person, the answer is yes, because we all know that's the only thing that's going to help decrease our worries, is knowing we can take out a significant amount of income per month. It's never going to run out no matter what happens in the market, and I'll have more to spend per month than needed. It's the one thing that will help people feel so much more comfortable about spending money and not worry, because if she's widowed, she's already freaked out emotionally, and now she's freaked out financially, and her emotional turmoil is going to continue for a long time. But we can fix the financial side where she doesn't have to think about anything negative happening. Imagine, what if she could feel like at 67, she was going to work, netting every month $10,000 after taxes, meaning every month automatic deposits of $10,000 after taxes taken out, like she was working, but she doesn't have to go to work. How's that going to feel?
You're going to feel great. And the beauty that is with this type of plan is that we do it every single day. And it doesn't matter if you have $1 million or $1.5 million or $2.5 million or $5 million. These plans come together and they will make you feel more content, because finally you'll have something in writing. You'll have that data explained to you so you understand where this is coming from. Because in retirement, it's not about, is the market going to go up 5% or lose 5% in the next month? It's about, where is your income going to come from? And is that income going to be stable? Is it going to be dependable? And can it be guaranteed? And that's the only thing that matters in retirement, is making sure that your income needs are taken care of so that you can do the things that you need to do, because we don't live forever, folks. And you want to make sure that those assets that you've saved for 40 years can be used in retirement to make a meaningful difference in your retirement years, so you can do the things that you dreamed about. You're still going to be able to leave a lot of money to your beneficiaries if you do this correctly. What you don't want to do is make a financial mistake at this point in your life, because if you do make a financial mistake at this point, not knowing that the financial mistake can happen, and it can happen when the market goes down, and if you're not set up from an income distribution perspective, you're going to have a tough life.
For more information about Peak Financial Freedom Group, or to schedule a consultation, just go to our website, peakfin.com. That's peakfin.com. And thanks for watching.